YouTube parts. Jack Spade back here with you, High Noon Leatherworks, for another leather adventure. And today, I'm going to do a new project, and I'll put a quick picture of it up right now and let you see what I'm talking about. My version is going to be much simpler, um, but it's a grocery bag carrier. And we're going to make ours out of leather, of course, and I'll show you exactly how I'm going to do that and what I'm going to use to complete it. So come on in and let's get started. All right, so I've got my granite slab here that I'm going to use. I've got some old 10-ounce veg tan leather. I've got a scribe. I've got a little plastic crafting tool here. I'm going to use that for burnishing. And I've got my mallet, a ruler. I've got a 5/16 hole punch. I've got a decorative stamp. I've got some leather sheen, my razor knife, some water, and a microfiber towel, my little cheap cutting board, and then I've got a couple of carabiners here. And these are just cheap carabiners I picked up, I believe, at the flea market. I like two for $1 or something. So I'm going to use those also. So the first thing I want to do is try to figure out how big I want to make this carrier. And basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to start out with a strap. I want it to fit comfortably in your hand, so I don't want it too wide. Like this is 1.25 inches wide, and I think 1 inch would be sufficient. 1.25 inches, especially in a smaller hand like my wife's or a child, would be, I just think it'd be too big. So I think I'm going to do 1 inch. Then I need to figure out how long it needs to be. And if we take a look at this leather and we go 12 inches, I think 12 would be about right. So let me look and see how square this piece of leather is. I'm going to assume it's not square, but I'm going to check it. And it is not. So it is on one, looks like it's fairly straight on one side. So let's go ahead and straighten up the end. And square that up. And then we'll measure and cut everything off of that side. This is a brand new blade, so it's cutting through that 10-ounce leather like it's butter. not pressing hardly at all. So let's go ahead, and I'm not going to use a pen or pencil. I'm going to just use my stylus to make first of all, let's go ahead and, since we squared that up, let's go ahead and cut this at 12 inches. And we cut off of this one side that we know is square. And I'm just double checking my grid here. So I'll cut that at 12 inches in length. Then I'm going to go ahead and see which side of this is squared up here. I'm going to square that up just a little bit on the length here, just to make it nice and square, and when I cut it, it'll be exactly 1 inch. So I squared that off, and then I'll just move over an inch. And there's my first one. I'm going to make 2 of these since I have 2 carabiners. So there's my 2 1-inch strips, 12 inches long. I could leave that square if I wanted to, or I could go ahead and I'm just going to put a little small radius on there. I'm not making a line or anything. I'm just cutting that pointed corner off just by using straight, like, angled cuts. On those corners, and I'll show you what that's going to look like. But normally you do that in two or three little angled cuts around that point on that corner. And what that does is that gives you that rounded corner look instead of this squared corner. So I'll go ahead and do the other one real quick. Again, it's not rocket science or anything. I'm just taking a teeny bit off in about 3 small little cuts. And it's not dramatic. It's just enough to take that point off and make that a little radius on that corner. Let me clean this up real quick, get all this debris out of my way that I just cut off of there. Alright, so I've got my two 12-inch long by 1-inch wide straps, and I want to next, I want to punch my holes in it. And what my holes are going to be for is I'm going to use this as a strap. I'm going to use the carabiner as like a quick disconnect type thing. So it'll hook through a hole through each side of the ends. And let me get the camera or the tripod. Let me get this granite piece and my poly cutting board, and then I'm going to use this stylus, and I'm going to go, remember I got a 5/16" punch, so I'm going to go up a 1/2 inch from the end and right in the center, and I'm going to put that punch in the center of that, or that hole. So I'm going to put that dot a 1/2 inch up from the end and centered side to side in the center of this punch. And you can see through the hole here, through the slot to the leather. Try not to hit it too hard on this leaf table. And there's my first hole. Now I can go down and do the exact same thing on this end. Kind of gave me an idea of doing the first hole, how much I needed to hit, how hard I needed to hit the second hole. We'll do the second strap. And again, this is not super precision or anything. It is going to make it look nicer if all the holes line up perfectly. Which that may matter more when we start our stamping. You can see I'm rotating that as I'm hitting it, because I'm not hitting it super hard all at one time. So I take my plugs out. I like to keep my punches clean as I use them. I don't like to leave the expended leather in there. So I like to clean those out so they're ready to go the next time. Alright, so let's set the poly board aside. We've got all of our holes, and then our carabiner should have no problem going inside those holes. And there's my carrier. So you could hold that anywhere you want while you're using that to carry grocery bags or shopping bags, any type of bags. So you would take your carabiner off one end, loop this end through all the handles on the bag or bags. Once it's through all the handles, bring it back and clip this end on the carabiner and you're ready to go. So it should be like that, and you can carry multiple bags instead of trying to carry one or two in this hand, one or two in this hand, and then if you try to hand it off to somebody at the door or something, that's always a pain. Here, you just give them the handle, just switch the handle. That's why I'm doing two of them, so that somebody else could be unloading the vehicle while the other person is taking this in the house. Pop that off the carabiner, slide it out of the handles, hand it back to the person at the door. So it should make it very convenient, quick, easy, and save you a lot of work and trips back and forth to your vehicle when you're unloading your car from the grocery store. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is I am going to take a moist microfiber towel and I'm going to case this you can tell how it's darkening up. Go ahead and case both of them while I'm at it, so they'll both be ready. And then while I'm at it, I'm going to go ahead and hit the edges just ever so slightly. And I did not bevel these, but I'm going to take my little plastic craft tool and I am going to burnish those edges very lightly. I'm not pressing hard at all. Basically, I just want to kind of harden that up. On those edges. Now, if you want to bevel them first, that'd be great. Wouldn't hurt a thing. But the main reason I'm not beveling is because I'm not at my regular shop right now. I don't have my beveling tools with me. So I'm just going to burnish those edges slightly, just enough to harden them. And then I'll go ahead and the casing, you can see it's lightening up already. it'll be ready to go ahead and do my stamping. Alright, so I'm going to take this, like a Texas Longhorn steer or bull stamp, and I'm going to find center here of 12, so 6 inches. I'm going to mark it just with a little imprint of a dot. Not even hardly going to be able to see it. Probably wouldn't be able to see it if you didn't know it was there. Now I know it's there because I just put it there. So what I'm going to do is go one direction, turn it 180 degrees, and then go back the other direction. And you know what? With this tool, the way the stamp's made, it goes all the way out to the edge, the horns. So I'm going to turn it and go, keep them all the same direction and just go side to side. Let's see how that turns out. So I'll do one to the left of center, and then one to the right, and I'll just keep working my way back and forth. Until I get the entire thing covered with my stamps. And then I'll show you what that looks like. And what I'm doing is, as I'm hitting it, I'm rolling this stem that snaps into the stamp head. I'm rolling that ever so slightly as I'm hitting it. So as I lift my mallet up, I move it or rotate it just ever so slightly, so that when my mallet comes down, it's putting pressure on a different part of the stamp. And that's what's given me a good, clean impression. So I ended up with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 impressions on there of the bull's head. And you could use whatever you want. You could just do regular decorative stamping or no stamping. And I'm just going back and forth again on the second piece. Now the key that I have found when you're doing this, especially with these type of stamps, is keep it pushed down. Keep downward force as much as you can as you're hitting it, so it doesn't bounce up and move. If it moves slightly, you're going to get a double image, which will ruin your stamp. So I try to keep downward force the whole entire time. Just so it doesn't bounce. And there's the second one. So I've got both straps done as far as stamping. I've got my holes. Like I said, I did just a little bit of burnishing on the edge there just to harden that edge up a little bit. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take another dry microfiber. I'm going to fold that up, and I can do this on this granite, it won't hurt anything. I'm going to take that leather sheen, that Fibings leather sheen that I showed you before. I'm not dyeing these, not putting any dye on them, and I'm not going to do anything to the back of it, the raw side, just the finished side. And all I'm going to do is put some of this protective sheen on there. And I've done this to it before when it's been cased. As long as it comes back to its natural color, it seems to work just fine. And then I make sure that gets down into that stamped area too. So go ahead and I coat that really good until it darkens back up again, just like if you were casing it. But this time it's with the sheen. And I'm going to let that sit for a little bit. And I'll put my lid back on my sheen. Let this sit for a few minutes. Let that kind of dry up. And then I'll come back and show you what I'm going to do to it. Alright, so now I went and got a microfiber cloth that's dry, totally dry. And I'll fold it over. Make sure I have a nice, smooth, flat surface here. Fold it over enough that I can get a little pad out of it. And then what I'll do is, this is dry to touch, is I'll go ahead and just buff it. And I'll buff that sheen until it starts to shine. You can pretty much keep buffing that until you get the shine that you want on it. So you can see in the light how it's got that sheen on it now, and that'll protect that also from the weather or whatever. So if it's not shiny enough to your liking, you can put more sheen on it and do it again. Like this rag this one that I use still has some sheen on it. I can go over that again after I've already buffed it. I'll do both of them. Just put a little more sheen on there. And how long you let that sit there is up to you. Sometimes I don't let it dry at all. I'll put the sheen on and then just start buffing. It kind of does the same thing. It's just, trial and error, whatever you like. And I'm not pushing hard at all. I'm just buffing real lightly. So there's, get it in the light again, you can see the sheen or the shine on it. So take your carabiner, fold it over, however you want to do it, and there's your completed bag carrier. If you wanted to make these just utilitarian, just for use purposes only, and you didn't want to put any designs or anything on them, you could just cut out some scrap leather, punch a couple of holes, put a carabiner in it, and be done with it. But this gives it a little bit of character with the stamping and the sheen on it. Looks nice. Let me show you how I use these. So it'll take me a couple bags of groceries. This has got some salad dressings, some peanuts. This one's got some potato chips and pretzels. And if you had several bags you wanted to carry in, just take one end of your carabiner, unlatch it, stick that through the handles in your bags, attach it back, and there you go. You could carry several of these bags like this. Let me see if I can get you in the shot here. You carry several bags like this with no problem. And I'll show you that in a little better shot here in a second. So there you go. Quick, easy, nice little project. Would make a nice little gift for somebody. Give them a couple of those. And you bring that in, set it on the table or the counter, and you pop the carabiner off of one end, and it slides that right out of that handle. Slide it through another 3-4 bags, pop it right on, ready to go again. However many bags, you could have 2. You carry bags in both arms. And then again, if you're handing those off to someone else inside the house, make it much easier to deal with. It's pretty cumbersome if you've done it, if you've trying to hand off multiple bags. So thanks for coming along. Thanks for sharing this time. Appreciate it. If you haven't yet, please subscribe. I'd greatly appreciate that. And share these with people. Send them the link. Say, hey, check these out. I'd appreciate that too. So, like I always say, please like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.